Did you know who is known as the Pug?
The Pug?
The Pug was the nickname Winston Churchill received from the English press during his prime minister era because of his stubborn nature and his physical look.
But Churchill was not only a politician, but a soldier, a writer, and even a professional dirty joke teller.
He even won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1933.
Hopefully, not because of his sexual jokes.
And his writing was quite nice. He even wrote about aliens in one of his scientific papers.
Churchill was a really controversial figure of his time.
In fact, many British people consider him a failure at the beginning of his first term of office.
He was a bit of a misogynist. He didn't want women voting, and he thought that women's suffrage would lead to women in parliament. What a pity for him.
He believed in British supremacy, and then he indirectly supported Franco during the Spanish Civil War just for then bribe him with gold to keep Gibraltar control.
Indeed, he admired Mussolini even though he hated Hitler.
But he was right sometimes too. He said there were no differences between fascism and communism. How did Churchill become prime minister? Well, to explain this, we need to travel back in time to early 20th century.
During this period, European countries were playing a great game of chess. Silent yet devastating.
Countries like the UK were dividing entire continents with set squares.
These imperialist desires triggered the outbreak of the Great War.
The signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1918 showed much more resentment than peace.
In defeated and victorious countries as Germany and Italy, the severe punishments and the lack of reward for its support of the Triple Entente forced the rise of fascism.
It was a period of totalitarianism and extremes. Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Franco.
In this turbulent climate, the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War was merely a small-scale rehearsal for what was to come, the Second World War in 1939.
In these times, our favorite drink and smoker rose to become prime minister. It was the Pug time.
In September 1939, the entire war caught fire because of an European match.
It was the beginning of the Second World War, the most devastating conflict in modern history. The sides were clearly defined after Poland invasion. On the one hand, the Allies, the UK, the Soviet Union, France until its occupation by the Nazis, and USA.
And on the other hand, the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan.
At first, the Axis advanced effortlessly.
It wasn't until the entry of the US, the Soviet advance, and Hitler's suicide that the situation flipped over in favor of the Allies.
And to end the Holocaust, the death of millions of innocents, and a war that could have been avoided with a further peace treaty in 1918, nuclear weapons were thrown to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, devastating entire cities and thousands more lives.
The evilness of humankind, no matter the side, was shown during the Second World War.
With his arrival to Downing Street, Churchill had to cope with his bestest war declaration to Hitler.
After his first month as a prime minister, the legendary evacuation of Dunkirk took place, saving the lives of around 330,000 British and French soldiers.
However, Hitler's plans were very ambitious. He even planned the invasion of Great Britain in the so-called Sea Lion operation.
Between July to October 1940, the inland battle took place.
The first battle delivered entirely into the air. The RAF defend the country from the German Luftwaffe.
And this was the first Nazi great defeat.
The English Royal Navy also played an essential role as it helped the UK to keep Atlantic Ocean control.
Meanwhile, Churchill was a motivational coach for his nation with famous speeches and words as the following.
We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
In addition, there were great technological advances as the British developed the radar.
Talking about the bombings, many British cities were constantly besieged because of the Blitz.
Birmingham, Liverpool, Glasgow, Manchester, Bristol, and obviously London.
In the English capital, civilians refuged in the underground tunnels alongside the earthworks.
But Churchill's oratorical skills were there, and that's how the famous slogan, "Keep calm and carry on," came about.
Socially, we could say that women started holding more important roles.
As millions of men were sent to war, women assumed their jobs in transport, factories, and agriculture, among others.
And they also served in the auxiliary corps of the army as nurses.
We could say that Churchill's policy was based on national armament, since all sectors were 100% involved in the conflict.
As we already know, the Allies emerged victorious.
Churchill joined forces with Stalin and Roosevelt, playing a major role in the signing of the multiple agreements that brought war to an end.
In fact, they were known as the Big Three.
After victory, Churchill said, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning."
After many speeches, cigars, and leading the country to victory, Churchill lost the elections.
What?
But he became Prime Minister again in 1951, when the Cold War threatened the world again.
But that's a topic for another video.
So, now you know, but did you know?